up, everybody? Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. Hang out a bit, see if anybody gets in here. Mouth breather, what's up? Damn, slime pack. Andre, I'm still with Prime. I still seem to be doing well at Prime, regardless of everybody that doesn't work at Prime talking about how bad it is. Anakin Moon, what's up? So anyway, yeah, Slime Pack, which video are you talking about? Are you talking about this Taji News or whatever it was, or are you talking about the ones that, boy, Richie Rich is putting out some videos like, that shit's personal, boy. They made me quit 2 weeks ago at 20K miles in TNT. Damn, why'd they do that? Hey, I just bum rushed the show on this deal because me and my boy got 30,000 miles, and I've been having some issues with this truck. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I was like, man, we got them 30,000 miles. I was like, hey, get me a load going to Springfield so I can get this thing in the shop. All right, Slime Pack, if you can, send me the link to that, because I haven't seen that second one you're talking about, the podcast, dude. I guess I could look it up. So we have been doing so many high value loads that I'm actually sick of it. I mean, at first we were doing them high-no loads, and that means high value and name only, but high-no, excuse me. But lately we've been doing like them real high value loads, like $10 a mile plus, stuff like that. But the problem is they're set up in a way that just makes it stressful. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're doing a load where we pick up and then it's like 200 miles or 195 miles, but it's not delivering until the next day. But we can't stay at a regular truck stop. And I don't know if you've been to the drop yard in Indianapolis. You have a better chance getting robbed trying to drive to that drop yard than if you would have just stayed at a regular truck stop. So we've had those where we had to drive to this drop yard, send in this macro every 3 hours. So we've had a couple of those just recently. I mean, we've done like literally like 4 high value loads in a row. So anyway, once we got done delivering that load, that last load, told them I needed to get to Springfield, and they said the best way to get you to Springfield is to take this trailer. I haven't watched the Marcus's video. I've been trying to just rest, but I will. I did watch one of his videos, but not the last one. So anyway, we took a trailer that needed to go to the shop from Ohio to Springfield, paying $1.25 a mile. That's good enough to go where I need to go, empty and all. So now I'm sitting outside Peterbilt, and I'm about to get in the shop. What's happening is, what's up, Tito's and Soda? I just left Indiana. But it's like having a hard time building air, and you can like hear it ticking a little bit. Once you get driving, usually it's fine. Sometimes it'll start dropping a little bit lower than you want it to drop. But for the most part, when you're driving, it's fine. But it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like when you start up the truck, It may go up to like 126, 127 psi, but then if you bleed the brakes down to like under 100, then it's been taking us like 10 minutes just to get out on the road. That was something I brought it to this Peterbilt for before. I brought it here just a little while back for that, and they said there's no problems with it. So I'm gonna stay in the truck when the mechanic comes out so I can at least show him what's going on. And then I got the check engine light, which they're saying is something with the fuel, you know, it's emissions related. And they replaced the dozer. I've got all the DEF filters replaced and the shit's still on. So I'm back here to see if I can get that done. I really don't care because I'll just take this truck to Colorado because I'm gonna go home so long. I'm gonna need to go back through TNT again. Hopefully. I gotta have my taxes back. I have to have my taxes done by September 15th, so I'm up against that deadline. Let's see. So yeah, I need to check out Shamarcus's video. I just got the link that you sent, Slime Pack, so I'm gonna need to check that video out. But if you scour the earth looking for enough problems, you're gonna find them, and that's what seems to be happening. Is you have all these people. Now, Rich is a different story, right? Richie Rich, because he at least worked for Prime, and I think that his downfall at Prime was more. That was different than just failing on a regular lease. It was, you know, a driver that he had driving his truck that put him in a bad situation. But he's at least worked for Prime, so he can talk all, you know, well, anybody can do what they want, but I don't, you know, anybody that's worked for a company and they want to talk about it, you know, I'm fine with that. But everybody else that's out here, that's, you know, all that shit is fucking gossip. So hopefully this was me and my last load with my boy. We're over 30,000 miles, so we're just gonna show. He's just gonna show up at the fleet manager's desk. Fleet manager doesn't even know we're here yet. So we're just gonna bum rush the show tomorrow. But I think I'll be up here still tomorrow. Might get some new tires on the truck. I got a nail in my steer tire. It's not leaking. It's like a perfect, you know, it's a nail that, like, you know, it's not leaking, but I was going to wait till closer to winter to get these tires all changed out. But, you know what, I just, since I am doing what apparently no trainer's supposed to do, which is make a bunch of money, I'll go ahead and get these tires put on if I can get them put on quick. Otherwise, I'll get them done when I come back to Springfield. All right, D's is in. He's on home time in North Carolina, drinking one for me. Have a few for me. I got at least 3 bottles for me when I get home. And then I'm gonna probably buy one that I've been kind of on the lookout for. So I'm definitely gonna be catching up. What's up, Kelvin? So that is it. I'm too old to be out here running this fucking trainer shit. I know there's trainers that are old. I just can't. I can't do it. I just can't. Alex. Oh, okay, Alex. Okay, so you were out there picking up at the high value place, and you were pulling in, and we were coming out, and we weren't sure which one wanted to go first. If that was you, I remember that. Hey, I picked up at that place, drove the load all the way to Chicago, and we were just about to get unloaded. We'd already checked in and everything, and I got this urgent phone call from my fleet manager saying, "Don't let them unload you if you haven't broke the seal, don't break the seal. They need that load back. So that load already paid like all the money, right? Then I get to drive it back. Oh, that was another round of bullshit there too. Had to drive it back. I think they paid me like $800 to drive it back, plus what they were paying me. But they weren't open when we went back, so we had to go to that drop yard in Indianapolis. And that place right there, man, you have a better chance getting robbed there than at a regular truck stop. Sorry if this is vibrating, but it is a little hot out here. All right, Mike, what's wrong with training? I'm not a driver. The problem with training, Mike, first of all, is this truck is probably smaller than just the bathroom. I'm talking about a bathroom without like a, it's like a small bathroom. It's the size of a small bathroom, right? So you're living in this shit for however long it takes to do, you know, in this case, 30,000 miles. So you're talking about a good 6 to 8 weeks. I think we did it in like 6, if you exclude the time that we were down a little bit. But it's not that easy to sleep, especially when we're on some of these shorter loads, because we've had all kinds of short loads lately. So it's hard to sleep when you start the day and then you drive to the shipper and then you get loaded and then you drive to the receiver and get like, it's too much like stuff going on. It's easier if you have a load going coast to coast, because then you switch drivers, then you get to sleep for a full 10 hours, 11 hours, whatever that would be, without the truck stopping and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, you know, or getting loaded, unloaded, all that kind of stuff. So, and then, I've had all different kind of students. I mean, this guy here was the guy that trained me, so I'm returning the favor since he got out of trucking a while back. So at least I had 100% trust in him. You know, I knew that if he had to pick up a load, unless we were like in a hurry, he could do it, and I didn't have to get up and do all that. So this has been a little bit easier, but it's just a lot of, it's just a lot of, it's hard enough being a solo driver, right? When you can stop where you want to stop and do what you want to do and all that kind of stuff. When you're driving with somebody else, you're not in control like that, even if you are the one in control. Andre, I'm a Schneider on a floor and decor dedicated. Is Schneider dedicated accounts any good? I don't know anything about Schneider, so I can't answer that one. Is it true that you leaving Prime, as Tim says? Terry did not say that. I haven't talked to Terry in a few days. That's another thing. Terry was somebody that I'd be talking to, you know, like, you know, pretty frequently. But man, when you're driving and when you're team driving, you just, a lot of times you just ain't trying to be on the phone. You're trying to get sleep whenever you can. So there's a lot of people that I might talk to here and there that I just haven't talked to, because it's just been too, you know, you're always fighting for sleep. All right. Well, this air is not keeping up with this heat out here. All right, we have some religion in the comment section. Satan is the prince of enlightenment, the true friend and savior of humanity. Well, maybe that's anti-Christianity. All right, motherfucker, I don't need this that many times in here. Real talk, thought when your truck gets outdated with Prime, are you considering buying a new one? Or are you going to go ahead and leave the company? That I don't know yet. It kind of depends on how I feel about the truck when it gets to that time. That's a hard one to... I hate leaving free money on the table, and I'd be walking away with free money if I did that. So would I say that team driving is more dangerous than solo driving? Absolutely. You have all these companies talking about all this shit they think is safe, whether it's, you know, putting people on sleep studies and doing all this shit. If anybody really cared about, if it was about safety, team driving would not be... I'm not saying it's necessarily dangerous, but it's more dangerous. There's more... I don't get sleepy, but I just know that a lot of the times that I hear people talking about teaming, that's the main thing that they're talking about. Like, one thing I always do is, you know, I did it with this guy here I'm with. He's at the Millennium right now in Springfield. If there was a night when we both didn't drive and we woke up the next morning and there was somebody that was going to drive that day shift and somebody was going to have to drive at night, I always chose the night, because I know even if I can't go to sleep, I'm good for a good 36 hours before I start getting in that situation where I'm tired or something. Terry, what's up? Somebody said that you said I was quitting. I did watch your last video when you were at that raggedy ass 19 network. I was at the Circle K down the road about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Tyree is speaking the truth, saying it is hard to sleep on a moving truck. All right, Lynn, if you don't mind me asking, when do you plan on retiring for trucking, or do you plan on something else with Andrea, or is this it after trucking? Man, I don't know. It all depends. It all depends on how much money I have. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you're young, you think a certain amount is a lot of money, and then when you get old and you really start nitpicking that money, you're like, man, maybe it's not as much money. So you don't want to outlive your money. So I'm just trying to do as much as I can as far as that stuff's concerned. So I don't buy stupid shit. You know, we live pretty frugal. I mean, I was mad. I just had to buy my wife a car a few months ago, and that thing, I wanted to pay that off like within a month, but man, I paid it down so quick that the interest on it's so low. I'm just letting that ride out for, I'll have it paid off in 6 months, or 6 months from when I bought it, somewhere in that neighborhood maybe. But I was mad. I had to do that. Jeremy says, I'm rich. I do this for fun. I am not rich. Trust me. I'm not worried about money. Well, I'm always worried about money, but I'm not worried about it immediately. Like, if I didn't have to work for a while, it wouldn't be a problem. Tyree is saying, it's especially hard if you don't know if your co-driver is a good driver or not. I'm reading these comments because some people are driving, listening to this. So if I just go ahead and start in with my retort, they're not going to know what the comment was about. Absolutely true. And that's one of the pleasures about driving with my former trainer, is he always says he guarantees me peace of mind. And I'm like, good to go. Jeremy's asking for some money. Shit. It's not just straight money, though. As a matter of fact, got to figure out what I'm going to do with this investment property. I got my guy moving out after shit. He's a retired police officer. So I'm not sure if I'm going to sell that place or have my son move in there or what. Yeah, Hey Terry, somebody just said something about me quitting Prime or something like that. Now there are plenty reasons to quit Prime if you look for them. You know, but at this stage of my life, I just think the best gift I can give myself is consistency. Not bouncing around all over the place. I mean, it seems like, you know, I try to learn from other people's mistakes. And I'm not saying Prime is the best company or any company is the best company. This could be somebody working at Swift or you name the company and leaving and then leaving and leaving and bouncing around and bouncing around. Man, that right there will put you in a bad position real quick. So as long as I don't think I would leave Prime over the money. It would have to drop unreasonably low. Like, I can't see it getting that bad. It would be other reasons besides that. The Life of Trucker Rob, what's up? Man, I'm about to get off this thing, man. I cannot wait to get home. As a matter of fact, if these guys here don't act like they can fix this shit quick, I will definitely leave out with these same problems I've had. I know how to work around it right now. Get home, put it in the shop at Peterbilt, tell them you got a month or 3 weeks or whatever. Take your time. Get this shit done right. Hey, Terry, my man was done with this 30,000 miles. And he asked a question about when, you know, getting us headed back. James didn't act like he knew anything. So we knew he got us 30,000 miles. I had to get the truck in the shop. So we just gonna show up on Monday like, he's here. You know what I'm saying? All right, so my wife is out spending a bunch of money, having brunch and shit. All right, Mike asked, do I like OTR or would I prefer a daily or consistent route? You know what? If I lived in a different area, I would probably say I would want something more regional or something like that. But living in Colorado, I'm not sure that that's the place where I'd want. I just don't want to be in winter 100% of the year. Even though Denver itself isn't that bad, once you get outside the city in any direction, it gets bad real quick. So to answer the question, if I lived in a different area, I would probably want to do something regional. Daily might be a little bit too much work, I think. All right, let me shut this truck down. Yeah, daily, man. That just seems like way too much work, and a lot of that shit's driver unload. Man, I had to unload one trailer one time, and I was so mad about that. So anyway, those of you guys just came in or that have been checking out or that haven't been checking out YouTube lately, boy, everybody and their mom wants to talk about Prime right now and how bad it is and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? This, whatever her name is, Taji News or something like that, she just did a video. And listen, she's like bringing up shit that people said in their video. I'm like, what? There are a ton of people out there that are at Prime making videos and not making videos, but obviously the ones that are making videos, you know, why don't you pick about a 10-second segment out of one of those videos? You know what I'm saying? Instead of picking 10 seconds out of somebody that's didn't have that good of a time. Mimosa Sunday, man, a mimosa is not strong enough for what I'm gonna get back into when I get home. But I just can't even then I can't really drink the way I used to drink. So even though I say that, it's really not the case. Man, I am not one to drive no. Listen, I don't want to do a hazmat load that's non-placarded, let alone some fucking fuel, especially in Colorado. And especially Vail. In the winter, you know, a lot of people used to talk shit about this guy trucks. You know, well, first of all, he put himself in that position to be having people talk shit about him. But one thing I could say is if he was doing that route daily, going over Vail every single day, chaining up almost every single night, no way. Jared says dispatchers. I don't know what that means, but if I was younger, for all you young people out there, I might like take that route. Drive a little bit, drive a few years, you know, if they let you in. Because I think a lot, you know, I don't know. But drive 4, 5, 6 years so you understand what driving is about, and then become a dispatcher. I think a dispatcher has been a driver has way better perspective than those that don't. Now, sometimes it could be probably worse, but that would be the route I would be going if I was younger and wanted to stay in the trucking industry. Linehouse perfect here in Sac. Must be talking about Sacramento. Mine is passing through Stockton. Reminds me of Denver on 25 around 3:45 p.m. Man, I don't get up to Stockton and the Bay Area and all that kind of stuff all that much, man. I do not look forward to any of those loads. My dad runs Ohio to Michigan daily with weekends off. If I remember correctly, 4 stops. See, that's not a bad run. Ohio to Michigan. The weather can get bad, but there's really not that many hills or anything like that, so you don't got to worry about that. And there's a lot of, you're not going through a lot of barren areas where, you know, like in Colorado, once you get outside Denver, you know, you have a lot of places, especially going east, where they're not really going to be on top of the roads and everything like that, because there's really not that many people that live there. But Ohio to Michigan, that'd be a nice little run. Anakin used to deliver produce locally. Fuck doing that again. A lot of claims on produce loads. I mean, I haven't had that many. You know what's funny? I have not done one load I've done one load in the last 10 weeks where there needed to be a lumper paid. That's unusual. I've had 0 with the guy I'm with now. Diesel Dreams. Hey there, my studious trucker with much knowledge. Man, I don't have that much knowledge. When I was OTR, I absolutely loved those Cali runs, regardless of what part. The scenery is perfect for me. California is not bad. It's not horrible. Like, I don't get a load going to California. Well, in the winter, I don't like going out there because you got to come back, right? So that means you got to hit some of the mountains coming back the other way. Especially out there on Donner Pass. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. That shit was so deep. People are out there with shovels trying to get their trucks, unburied. I'm not about that life. All right, Jared, I missed this comment. If you're a prime and you have a decent relationship with your dispatcher, it's good. If not, you're screwed. That's one thing I will say. So I've talked to a lot of people that are doing well, and I've talked to people that weren't doing well and left. And I would probably say a lot of times if people did fail, a lot of times it was on them. But a lot of times it was on, dispatchers. Well, they're whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what everybody's situation is. I can just base it off of statements I've seen and what they've been told. And, some of that stuff seemed foreign to me because I just wasn't used. I'm not used to seeing that personally. I've seen people that left because they got a bad truck. You upgrade from TNT, and I'm just painting a picture. I'm not saying that this is how it has to be, but you upgrade from TNT, you're 25 years old, you don't really have that much life experience. A lot of times you can't look that far ahead if you're younger, but 25 years old, you get a bad truck, and you're down a few $1,000s, and that shit seems like it's the end of the world, and then and then you leave because you can never catch up. I mean, I've seen that happen before. But a lot of times it's self-inflicted. Tyree's talking about how horrible the Michigan roads are. Anakin was delivering to schools and restaurants, unloaded by hand with the dolly. Maybe 20 years ago. Hell no. Alright, TV guide. I don't know what that second letter is. Mini fleet coming soon. Looking forward to hiring only million milers and ex-fleet owners to take it to the next level with the Money Speed platform. That is one thing I am not sorry to have behind me is multiple trucks. That was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made right there, because you look at it and it seems so simple, right? The way I looked at it was, here's what I'm doing. Let me just duplicate that out by the number of trucks I have. If they even average this much, you pay the driver this much, there's this much left over. Worst that could happen is break even. Man, I'm telling you, motherfuckers were inventing ways to cost me money and shit. And I was lucky. I've talked to people. Oh, man, I got to talk about some real serious shit. But, yeah, I know people that had even worse, that were getting killed by that. But did you guys, anybody at Prime, hear about the driver that dropped a loaded trailer? There were a couple that were stolen, but one of the trailers that was stolen had over $500,000 worth of meat in it. And we get a message from the head of operations or something like that explaining the situation, and then they're like, and the driver's on the hook for the entire amount. Man, you might as well tell me I owe $1 billion. There is no way that I would pay back no $547,000, even if I was negligent. That might as well be $1 billion. Like, throwing that number out is just like that's like telling me you don't want none of the money. Now, the first thing I would do if I did that, if that happened to me, is I just can't see doing it. I mean, I might suggest somebody try to put a little bit of something on it while you get your ducks in a row. Start putting shit in a trust and all that kind of stuff. And then once you get all that shit handled, then do what you got to do. But saying $540,000, like their driver's responsible for it. I mean, how long do you that didn't even need to get sent. All right. Anyway, I've asked this to a buddy of mine, and he couldn't get. I've asked this. Wait. I've asked this to a buddy of mine and couldn't get a sustainable answer. All right. Well, I need. If knowledge is infinite and our capacity to learn is finite, does the pursuit of more knowledge ultimately lead to greater understanding or a deeper awareness of our own ignorance? Sounding like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku up in here with that statement. I don't know. That's deep. I heard about it. I don't even work for Prime. $540,000. Like, really? Like, you might as well. You just guaranteed yourself getting no money from somebody throwing a number like that out. I mean, if you throw out a number like 25, 30 grand, then I could possibly see, all right, you know what? Because they were trying to hit me with 70 grand one time with a load that one of my drivers dropped, that was told to drop. I think it cost my fleet, that particular fleet manager, his job, that nobody particularly liked on my fleet. But TV guy, both those loads were in Florida. The guy dropped it in the truck stop and went home. Man, I'm telling you. Yeah. That's just impossible. So yeah, I'd be having to call up. I'd have to say what Tim Travel said. Lyle doesn't owe you $540,000, but his entity does. Follow up with them, because that's impossible. I mean, first of all, who's going to drop a loaded trailer in Florida? I mean, that's like one of the highest theft places in the country. You're going to just drop that's crazy. I don't do any of that risky shit. You hear about all these people going to all these different places with their truck, pulling up in Walmarts and staying the night there, and Planet Fitnesses and all. Man, this shit's at a truck stop in a spot. If worse comes to worse, I mean really bad, a rest area. But I don't do all that risky shit. Tyree, rumor has it was over a woman. Well, hopefully she's not into the money, because if he owes $547,000 or whatever that number was, he ain't got much left. I'd have to call my man Tim Travels and be like, hey, tell me what I need to do. Do I need to get set up with a trust attorney? Hurry up. I was supposed to put shit in a trust a long time ago, and I've been putting that shit off. Do I need to put everything in a trust to fucking, shield me from this stuff? Now, here's one thing I will say, all right? If you go back, and I'm just saying this because Rich felt like making a video about me, but if you go back far enough, I don't know if he deleted these videos or not. I don't really remember Rich doing that bad at Prime. It was when that driver got in his truck and messed up, and then he ended up getting like a bill for $14,000 or whatever it was dollars. I almost guarantee that $14,000 might have been hard to pay back, but I probably bet that the situation probably would have been in a better situation right now had you just taken those $14,000 lumps that would have already been paid up and you'd already been back in the money. But here's what I'm thinking. I've been noticing it lately. All these trailers that are loaded, and not Prime, just regular drivers, whatever, driving around with loaded trailers with no lock on them. And I'm like, why would anybody ever break into a trailer with a lock on it if easily 50% of the trucks out here don't have locks on them? It just doesn't make sense to me. I remember about a year and a half ago, there was a girl at Prime who was delivering in Philadelphia, and the time it took for her to, because they had to park on the street, and the time it took for her to walk from her truck to the guard shack and back, somebody had cut off the lock and was in the trailer. Now, I would have shut the trailer door. She was back there, hey guys, what are you doing? Man, I would have shut that shit so quick. All right, Jared paid a huge deductible for his sister to save her life. That's what I'm talking about. TV guy, you were fully shielded with just a basic LLC from any liability lawsuit. I'd have to just double check on that, man. Because if you're talking about $500,000, man. Yeah. Yeah, there's no way. I'm sure my fleet manager's not going to be too happy with with me and my student being back here without the, without actually giving the green light to come back in to upgrade. But man, I had to get this truck in the shop. This shit was like stress. This shit's been stressful to drive around for the last couple weeks. $500K, you might as well bring the truck back and buy a plane ticket. Like, how do you even tell somebody they're gonna have to pay 500 grand? Like, what are you gonna do? Set it up on installments? Like, yeah, I don't know. All right, Mike, if it's locked, it's got to be worth more. Man, we got locks on empty trailers around here, so that could be worth zero. I do know somebody who had a not at Prime, but he had some sodas or something broke into in the back of his trailer. And these guys made him drive somewhere and dump the whole load just because the seal was broke and a case or two was stolen. Jeremy Gregg's been off the truck for 2 months, going back in the morning. I'm so depressed. That's how I feel when I'm about to come off of home time. And I'm not feeling too happy about these $4,500 I'm about to spend on these tires, but I know I'm gonna have to get a steer tire because there's a nail in it and they ain't gonna repair that. So, and I got one of these probably is close to getting replaced anyway, so I'll just get them all done. I might do that before I leave here. Springfield. What I need to do is go to Love's and those tires, man. It sounded like a corny brand, but I had Love's put on 2 steer tires on my old Peterbilt. They were called like Hankook or something like that, or Hankook. Man, those were the best steer tires ever. I needed to go pick up 2 of those and bring those to the terminal and have them put those on my truck. Those had the deep ass grooves. Man, those were the best steer tires. Jeremy doesn't do leasing. All right, Mike, I don't blame the company for dropping the COLA liability issues, even though it was probably safe. Yeah, I just don't know about that's just wasteful right there. It was cans, man. Come on. Man, them hand cooked tires, man, the treads were like, I look at these steer tires that most of us have at Prime. Man, them things barely got grooves in them. And them hand kooks or whatever they were, man, they had some meat on them treads. Yeah, Jared, I'm about to get 4 super singles and 2 steers. All that money I made with my student. Yeah, we've been making all the money too. That's no lie. I just got tired of talking about it. We've probably done, as a matter of fact, let me look. We've probably done, I'm going to go through these loads. I'm not going to talk about the money or anything. Okay, high value, high value, high value. High value. No, that wasn't high value. Okay, so let me start back over again. High value, high value, high value. Regular, high value. Regular, regular, regular. High value. Regular, high value. Regular, 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 high value, high value. Regular, regular. High value, regular, regular. We've been killing them as far as that goes, but a lot of stress with them loads, man. Especially with this air pressure not doing what it needs to be doing all the time. So I got the new shocks a few weeks ago. Now, you know Peterbilts are always going to ride smooth anyway, at least the older ones, the longer wheelbase ones. And then I put them shocks on it. Man, that shit, you forget, you know, because it starts getting a little more bouncy, a little bit more bouncy. But you just kind of get used to it. Man, you put them new shocks on it, man, that shit was driving so smooth. High value, that's about 50 grand. Man, them high value loads, those things probably upwards of $1 million. At least I know one of the loads had what it was on it, and that probably would have been in the $1 million area minimum. So if you happen to be at Prime and you're ever in the Indianapolis area and you need to find parking and you say, oh, Prime has a drop yard in Indianapolis, don't do it. Do not do it unless it's absolutely necessary. If you have a high value load or something like that, but don't just go there on a whim. That place is trash. Oh, no. No, it wasn't like that. Like, we haven't really ran that many miles these last couple weeks because there have been so many of these high value loads in there. But you know, one of them, like I said, we had to take. I don't know why they wanted this load back so bad, but the way it went down was we pulled into the receiver, and we're in the Chicago area, and my co-driver went in to check in. Well, he lost his driver's license, so he only had like a digital one. They wouldn't take that. If they took his driver's license and he didn't have to come back out and get me to go in, we might have already had that shit broke open and unloaded. So I went in there, checked in. It took a little while because I had to wait back in line. As soon as I got back in the truck, my phone rings. My fleet manager's like, "Did you drop? Did? Are you still at the receiver? What's And I was like, "No, we're about to get in the door. No, the shipper wants it back. Do not, And I was like, "All right." So we just bounced out. We didn't go tell anybody anything or anything. We just drove away. So they paid us good to go back. I think it was like $240 miles or something like that. Paid about $800 to take it back. I think it was like 4,000 pounds or something. Then I almost had to lose my temper yesterday. I kept it cool though. We're at another place unloading. Now, first of all, we're at this receiver, and there's some trucks that are in this line. And I didn't know why they were sitting there. Sometimes you'll see trucks sitting in line, because this is one of those places where you got to be there at your appointment time. So I was like, all right, maybe they're waiting for their appointment time. So I go in and turn it, I'm about to turn in. And then I hear somebody honking and shit. Luckily, he tried to come at me with some tact. Hey, we're in line over here. I was like, all right. So I back out, whatever. Anyway, I go check in. There's trucks everywhere. A prime driver decides to pull inside the gate and stop instead of pulling forward. So now he's blocking up everybody coming in. And my man went to go check in, so I'm just chilling. And then they tell us to go around to the shipping side. They're going to unload us over there. Well, nobody really knew what was going on. We're sitting over there. There's really nobody over there. So I'm like trying to call. Nobody's answering. I finally get a hold of security. Not, their security. And they're like, I tell them what the situation is. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it 30 more minutes. So I call back in 30 minutes. He's like, I don't know if they know you're over there. You should just drive back around. So I drove back around. Now, I didn't have my seatbelt on because I was going from one side of the dock to the other side, and I got a seatbelt violation. But, I've ring the bell or whatever. It's one of those ones that you push the button when you're in the truck. And I was like, hey, I'm over here, blah, blah. And she's like, we know you're over there. And we only have one unloader. You have to be patient and all this stuff, man. In my younger days, I'd lit her up. So I was like, all right. We just didn't know. We were back there all by ourselves. And we weren't sure if you guys knew we were over here or not. Just let us back through the gate. We'll drive back around. So did that. I don't know if they're going to pay attention. I mean, that load paid so much that I'd probably feel guilty if they gave me detention on that. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty unorganized. And actually, we drove it there. Okay, so we had 195 miles to drive. We picked the load up at 4 p.m. And, or no, 2 p.m. So we get out there. I'm like, all right, let's just try to deliver it immediately. And we got out there, and they're like, who are you with? I was like, Prime. When's your appointment? I tried to be slick. They just told us to get it here as soon as possible. But we don't have any primes scheduled for tonight. We have appointments for a reason. I was like, all right. So then I had to go stay at this little crappy drop yard. No facilities whatsoever. And stayed there for like 12 hours. No bathroom, no nothing. Well, meanwhile, they got two nice truck stops within a half mile of the place. I'll be happy when I don't have to worry about no high value loads. And if they're regular high value loads, that makes sense. But when it's one of these where you got to call in every 3 hours, and some of them have a tracker on your phone, and some of them you got to call them, like, you know, whenever you stop and do your other shit, man, some of that's just a little bit too much. The longer ones are better, because then they're, you know, where are they gonna tell you to go if you need to stop somewhere and there's no drop yard anywhere. All right, Flubby Bunny, what engine I got? This is a Packard. It's the Packard engine in it. Mike, no GPS on the truck. Yeah, there's GPS on it, so they could be tracking me like that too. But that just became a little bit too much. And sometimes everything's not about the money. Sometimes you just want a good night's sleep. Leah, what's up? I'm just out here at Peterbilt in Springfield. I'm about to go check in. You know, they had a little sign up in there, like it was like a ghetto restaurant and shit. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Is it the first minute or the 14th minute? You know what I'm saying? This is a mukbang video now. Lee, I could baby this truck home if I wanted to, but I figured since we didn't get authorization from my fleet manager for him to upgrade, we're kind of bum rushing it. So I said I'm in Springfield, or the reason I got him to get me to Springfield was to get the truck in the shop. So that's what I'm doing. Michigan has some good truck stops. I like going to Michigan. I like when I get on that little loop, when I'm going to Michigan, to Wisconsin, down to Indiana, up to like Illinois, then back to Indiana. When I get stuck on those are my favorite. Those are my favorite runs to be on, when they kind of get put together like that. He's over 30,000 miles. I think he's at 30,400. They gave us an empty trailer to bring back to Springfield. Made sure that counted for his miles. So I think we're about 30,400, 30,600. But if for some reason they come up with he can't upgrade yet, I don't know what to say. Because I got shit I got to do. I mean, I got shit I want to do, like get on the bourbon and, hang out with the family, all that stuff. But I got shit I need to do, like my taxes and stuff like that. And if they don't understand that, I don't know. I know, Leah, they like having teams. I'm telling you, within the over the course of the last 2.5 weeks, we've probably done 70% high value loads. And I'm not talking about the bullshit high value loads. I'm talking about the ones where you got to be sending in macros every 3 hours if you stop somewhere, and you know, all kinds of crazy, you know. You can't stop at a regular truck stop. You got to go to a drop yard. Like, most of these were solo runs. And I told my fleet manager, I want miles more than money. So he did the exact opposite. It's been kind of nice, though, as far as not need any washouts, none of that stuff. I've done a few high value loads being solo. Not quite, you know, not quite as many, just a handful, but I've definitely done some high no loads. Everybody that knows what comes, I forget where it's at, somewhere in Ohio, they have a high value load, and I call it a high no load because it's high value and name only, meaning you got to go through all the rigmarole, but it ain't paying like no regular high value load. We did one of those coming out of Miami. Another one, a high value load and name only. Actually, that load was a high value load, and it paid less than Tropicana. And when I got the dispatch, actually when I got the proposed load, I don't see the numbers on my load until they get dispatched, right? So I see this load coming out of Miami. I forgot where it was going. Oh, it's going to Georgia. All I saw was proposed load. This is a high value load. I'm like, bet. I hate going to Miami, but shoot, a high value load. All right, we'll do that. Man, as soon as I was done with the load before that, and I hit depart shipper, and that load started coming through. First of all, I was delivering up in, I forget where I was at, south of Bradenton at a Walmart up there. But I had the deadhead down to Miami, so however many miles that was, and then go up to Georgia. That, with the deadhead and everything, literally I would have been better off just getting a Tropicana load and doing whatever that load needed to do, rather than going all the way down to Miami. Leah's gonna be home on the 6th. I hope I'll be home on the 6th. Now the only problem with, because I would not mind deadheading home. The problem is they start that little clock. You have to be dispatched within 30 days or whatever that is. So the amount of days I sit here dealing with this would already be starting that clock. So at least if I get a load going home, my clock would get restarted. And Leah, that dock in Miami wasn't super tight, but it wasn't the best dock. It wasn't the best. Just getting in and out of Miami was a pain in the ass and everything. All right, Tyree. So are you planning on, all right, hold on. So are you going back to doing a few loads and going back to the house? like you were doing before. I really haven't done that much. I'd always said I wanted to do 5 weeks out and then like 14 days home or something like that. I haven't been doing that all that much because when I had multiple trucks on the road, I was out on the road offsetting the negative balances on those trucks. So I really haven't done that at all. So I plan on going home for, let's just say 21 to 25 days this time, only running about 25 days and then coming back home for maybe 10 days. I am going to start shortening this shit up. So I will probably start, I might do variations like I run 5, maybe 6. We're going to have to see in the winters. Sometimes it's just better to stay out in the winter, away from, you know, at least having the chance to not have to mess around with I-70 and everything. If I'm like in the Midwest or something, we'll see. But in a perfect world, what I'm probably going to try to do is, let's say 5 or 6 weeks out, and then like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks home. Well, no, 5 or 6 weeks out, let's say 21 days home, and then go back out for a shorter run, like maybe 3.5 weeks, and then come back for like 5 days, and then go back out for like, you know, I might stagger it like that. I'm not sure. I got confused. What do you mean the little clock? I don't know. I don't know if I said that or not. South Florida's overpopulated. That's why I'm trying to move out of Florida. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Florida. Gainesville, Florida. I've never really been through there. Don't say that W word. What's that? Mike, I've heard drivers are complaining of Florida. Florida's just not a... You better make a bunch of money going into Florida because you ain't getting shit coming out. I mean, I've heard of some good loads coming out of there. I've never got them. The reason I was afraid to go to Florida as a team was they be trying to throw them flowers on teams. I've already said I am not doing no flowers. Oh, the W word must be talking about winter. You know what? I have picked up a good load from Florida. I forget where was it. It was like a little farm or something. Well, it wasn't a farm, but it was a produce place the farms brought the shit to. That load paid well. Yeah, Lee, I got a seatbelt violation yesterday morning. I was at the shipper so goddamn long that I was like, man, let me drive back around, because they put us in the back lot of this place. So they have a receiving side and a shipper side. So they had so many trucks, they said, okay, we're going to put you over, you know, drive around to this other side and somebody will tell you what to do. Man, the yard guy couldn't. I'd rather a truck driver not speak English than a fucking yard guy or somebody I got to talk to. So I go around there and the guy's like trying to do all these hand signals and shit. Man, I don't know sign language and I'm not no gang member, so I didn't know what all this shit meant. So I finally figured out he wanted me to go to 22. So I got in 22 and I'm sitting there like a couple hours. I don't see any other trucks going back there. So I'm like, did they forget about us? because there were other trucks that were on the other side. So I would have figured, okay, if a couple more trucks came over, you know. So I'm like wondering if they really knew what they were doing. So finally enough time went by, called security guard. And then finally I drove around. Well, to drive around, I had to exit, go around a half block and come around. Well, I was going like 27 miles an hour. Didn't have my seatbelt on. So I got the camera violation. What could I say? My fault. That's what I said. My fault. Okay, Lee is explaining that I need to take a load every 30 days, so that's why I'm wanting to take a load home instead of just deadheading home. Yep. Gainesville. Okay, yeah, okay, I've been through Gainesville. 8 and 12 drop loads, man. Once you get past 3 drops, I start getting real picky about stuff. Like, I think I had a load. As a matter of fact, I forget when I came off of home time, because I had a conversation with my fleet manager. I said, I'm never going to turn down a load because of money. But there be loads I just, at this stage in my life, headaches is worth more. Like, I'd rather make less money with less headaches than a lot of headaches and a lot of money. So, you know, I've had that conversation, all that kind of stuff. And we came to the agreement. Said, well, Lyle, if I get a load and it's paying all the money, I got to send it. You know, I'm going to send it, and you're going to be responsible to turn it down. So I was like, all right, I got that. So, you know, we're under the understanding that if he absolutely needs a load, I'm going to do it. But just because it's paying a lot, I ain't going to do it. So he sends me a load. I was coming off of home time, maybe 2 home times ago. And I see, first of all, I saw the state I hate more than anything. One of them, New Jersey. 3 stops in New Jersey. I was like, hell no. Man, I said I couldn't reject that load fast enough. I don't hit the reject button. I send a message back first. And I say, I'm far from excited about this load. You know, blah, blah, however I put it. A soft decline, right? And then he came back, okay, I'll decline this $4 a mile load or whatever it was going to New Jersey. I was like, I appreciate you so much. Shit, 3 stops in New Jersey over the course of multiple days. Where are you gonna park in the middle of that shit? I'm gonna drive back out and then come back in? No. 5 stops in Jacksonville? No. Leah, man, listen, we're back here. I'm like half asleep when I get this, when I started driving around. Prime be selling data from them AI cameras. I'm so tired of these damn cameras. Like, they don't bother me. It's just, it is just the principle of the camera more than anything. Whether they're selling it or not. I mean, the cameras weren't supposed to cost the drivers money, right? Well, technically, when you're signing that lease, you know, like, it doesn't say truck payment, APU payment, and camera payment. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have that. You know, but I can't. It's hard for me to believe that that cost isn't getting passed down. Maybe not on the people that already had trucks, signed leases and stuff. No, I didn't get a ticket. And you know what? Obviously, I don't want to get a ticket. But I just stopped worrying about shit. Man, I stopped worrying about shit a while back, man. Like maybe 3 years ago, I just stopped worrying about shit. And it just took so much stress off me. I was like, you know what? If I ever can't find a place to park, then I'm going to just park where I can park. That just took stress off me. If I ever get pulled into an inspection, I fail it. You know, I fail it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? Like, I just, or if I get a camera violation, or if I violate my logs, or whatever the situation, like, there's nothing that can happen. Like, I can kill myself or kill some other people. That's one thing, but there's nothing like that that is going to impact my life enough to where I need to be stressing out about, I'm getting pulled in, or, you know what, I got a ticket for this, or I got a ticket for, you know what, it's just not that serious. Restaurant depots, man, I went to 3 restaurant depots, and they were all shitty. And the worst restaurant depot, unless somebody can come up with another one, is in New Orleans. Just getting to that bad boy is hard enough. And then when you're there, it's a whole nother animal once you get there. New Orleans, if you ever see that pop up, there's like 3 places that stick in my head. If I ever see them, I know to auto decline them. Restaurant Depot in New Orleans, MDV, Landover, whatever that is, in Landover, Maryland, or Baltimore, or wherever it is. And shit, I forgot the third one, but I remember it if I see it. But restaurant depots, the one in Cincinnati, that restaurant depot is nice. You know what? I got there late because I got held up by somebody else. And then they got me unloaded real quick. Looks like safety will have something to talk about Friday, not wearing seatbelt. Yeah, they could talk about it, man. I ain't even worried about it. You know, have them fall asleep or being asleep at a dock, and then having to, I don't know. I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. Okay, Prime probably got the hardware for free and pays for a subscription if they don't sell data. Anybody that wants to get out of trucking, if you want to go make a ton of money, go see if you could get a sales job at Netrodime, because I guarantee you the salesman that fucking put Prime together on these cameras is still on vacation. Tyree is in agreement with me that New Jersey sucks. Now there is, what's that place in New Jersey where that Costco is? That's not that bad. Or even where we pick up the produce shit, I forget the name of that city, where they got that little nice truck stop with the wash bay there. That place isn't bad. We just went to New Jersey. Okay, this isn't a race thing. It's just something that I just happened to notice. Where did we pick up in New Jersey? Man, okay. We picked up Lakewood, New Jersey. I have never, ever in my life seen like a whole town. Everybody was Jewish in that town. And I mean the real Jewish people. Not the ones that are walking around with just a little hat on, yarmulke, whatever. Not them. I'm talking about the real ones. Black suit, white shirt, big ass brim hat, all that shit. The entire town. It was like hundreds. I was like, man, I have never, I mean, it was like the entire city right there. And that was a tight ass city to drive through as well. Just getting to the pickup, that was one of them high value loads. Greedy little pig, man, we've talked about a bunch of stuff. Talked about my truck going in the shop. I got some air leak. Anybody that's a Peterbilt or a truck in general, what's happening is when I start my truck, you'll hear it like ticking. And I don't know if it's the compressor or whatever, but it'll be like, and then it'll do that for a while. And then it'll stop. and then it'll start building air pressure. Now that could be 45 seconds, it could be 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And then sometimes when you're driving, it wants to drop like below comfortable level. Not usually. Once it's going, it's usually going good. But yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was driving, and that shit, you know, usually in a Peterbilt, it'll usually drop down to 106, and that's the point it'll start building air back up. Man, I was like down to 93. I was like, man, I might have to pull over. So we were talking about that, talking about every YouTube channel in the world that's never worked at Prime, having to have something to say about Prime. If I was Dame Dash, I would call them culture vultures. So we got that. Talked about me coming back to the terminal without letting my fleet man. Well, listen, I had to come back to terminal and get this truck looked at. It just so happened that coincided with my student, my old trainer, hitting 30,000 miles. So we're just gonna have to walk in there tomorrow like, what's up? Talking about some bourbons I want to drink when I get home. I think my wife bought me some Castle and Key bourbon. My son bought me 2 bottles, one of which he won't tell me about. But he bought me some Knob Creek 10-year rye, I believe it was. Can't wait to get into that. Just bullshitting. Really nothing serious. All right, Leah declines any depot loads, but it was paying good. Like I said, I don't care. I don't see what the loads pay until I get dispatched on them. Now, sometimes, actually, I don't. If it's a proposed load, I don't even see the money on it. It needs to get dropped on me, or once I accept the proposed load, then I can see what it pays. I've just trained myself that the money's going to work its way out, and it always seems to have. You know, I know people that nitpick every single load, every single, you know, like they go load to load. If this load isn't paid great by itself, then they're declining it or whatever. I just found this peace of mind. Like I end up not having to turn down that many loads. And I don't know if this helps or not, okay? This is one thing that I've done with my fleet manager. First of all, I had the conversation with him. Took him down to Fire and Ice. Had a little, you know, broke a little bread together. Spoke about some topics that were important to me. And that was that. But every single load, not so much anymore, because I think he knows what I like. But if I got a shitty load that I wanted to do, or I didn't want to do, but I was going to do it, I'd say, I'm not that excited about going to New Jersey, but I got your back. And then if you would send me a good load, then I would send something back saying, man, thanks for getting me in this lane. You know I love it like here. So I was kind of training them like that. And I don't know how effective it was or not. I don't necessarily have to do that as much anymore, but that was how I would communicate without actually saying it. You know what? So I think that, put it this way, it didn't hurt. Leah, this whole, yeah, I need to watch that meeting again. My fleet manager did a meeting a long time ago. I don't even think it was like in the safety meeting. I think it was like he did it from home. It might have been during COVID or something like that. But how can you not do your job out here? This is like the easiest. This is the easiest job in the world. Like if somebody said, Lyle, what was the easiest job you had in your life, including Burger King and all that? This is by far the easiest job in the world. Like Burger King, when I was 14, 15, 16, whatever, was way harder than driving a truck. Like like, how do you not do your job? Now, sometimes you end up having to do other people's jobs, like when people put you on loads you're not supposed to necessarily be on, and you're like telling them, this load's gonna be tight, I'm not sure if I can make it, can you see if we can get an appointment, rescheduled or something like that? And then they don't ever get back with you. Like, I'm not gonna be late. That's not gonna happen. So I got 3 choices. Falsify my logs, which means do some sort of personal conveyance to get the load there on time, which I'm not gonna do because the cover-up is worse than the crime. I'm not gonna be late. So that means I'm gonna have to violate my logs. They put me in that position. We'll see what we could do. All right. I didn't stress about it. Once I figured out what my options were, I was like, all right. Another thing I don't stress out about, I do stress out about winter on occasion, but if listen, shut the fuck down when winter hits, because there is not an excuse good enough that you're going to be able to give Prime for them to not have a problem with it. So I'm not even going to put myself in that position for them to be clowning me in no meeting. This driver was doing this, and then no, they ain't putting me up in no meeting. If I got something to do with it, I ain't going to be in no meeting. Or having people rewinding my video like, Red from Friday when Craig stole the boxes and shit. They ain't going to have me out there like that. Tyrese talking about a place that would make me hate New Jersey even worse. Probably the place I've been to that I hated the most in New Jersey. That, and maybe it wouldn't, I wouldn't hate it as much if I went there more than once. But that, going to that FedEx and where the airport is, I think that's in Newark or something like that, and you got to drive around in circles and do all this. You got to go through all this hassle just to get that, man. Sick Semper, what's up? Diesel Dreams, real estate champions, fixed value, but seeing the 500K Prime Inc. meat trailer drop, get stolen, value gone. Does that highlight values true fragility for you, even in land? Not exactly sure what. Let me read this again. Man, I'm not sure what you're meaning by that comment. One thing I do know, for those of you guys that came in, we did speak earlier about this trailer got stolen in Florida, and they sent out the message. I'm sure everybody at Prime got it, saying, and the driver's responsible for $547,000 or whatever it was. Telling a driver they're responsible for $547,000, you might as well say they're responsible for $4 billion, because there's no way that's ever going to get paid back. Mike, how does Prime not sue Amazon for using Prime on their trailers? I think they did sue them, and then they came to some agreement. I don't know what that agreement was. All right, Leah, you have to be okay with letting Prime run the show, and that they generally know what's good for you, and you'll be fine here. Shamarcus did a video. If anybody hasn't watched that, Prime Inc. channel. His name is Shamarcus. He was talking about some of the corny stuff some of the corny dispatches that we get at Prime. And I think it's because everybody's broke into these little small business units. And I think a lot of times that's where you see drivers driving past each other, deadheading to areas where the other driver was at that particular time. So for example, I could be in Indiana and they say they ain't got no loads, deadhead you to Michigan. Meanwhile, there's somebody in Michigan, they ain't got no loads, deadheading you down, deadheading them down to Indiana, or places that there could have probably been better options, whether it be deadheading a shorter drive somewhere. I think that's because these different small business units aren't necessarily, how can I explain it? Am I making sense? Like, I think that they're only seeing what's available to them, whereas they're not able to see what's available in the entire network. So you have a lot of crisscrossing and stuff like that that might be going on. That's the impression I get sometimes. Leah, weekends just blow. My dispatch team are all pretty good. Man, I like weekends, man. I do like weekends. First of all, there's no pressure. Like, I don't have to worry about, like, the agreement I have with that fleet manager is not the agreement I have with weekend dispatch. Although, I've never had a reason to. All my weekend people, ever since the one guy left, it has been awesome. Tyree, you have to know when to pull over when it's winter. It's all about your pain threshold. See, it's not even about the pain or the fear or anything like that. At this point, it's just like, why even put myself in the situation? You know what I mean? Now, I do think that all these people that are in-house, safety, fleet managers, you know, all that, they need to come out on the truck. Because sometimes I think that they have, the ones that haven't driven, just don't understand. Like, I don't think they have any concept when a driver says, hey, can I get a pre-plan so I have somewhere to go? Like, it doesn't even click in their mind why somebody would say that. Or, or a good one is when somebody in safety, when I pose a question to somebody in safety, and it's like, here's what the roads are like. This particular receiver, you are not allowed to stay on their property once you unload. You know, because I had a critical event. I was, man, empty, driving minus 18 degree weather, jackknife semi trucks on both sides of the highway in Minnesota on I-35. And I got a critical event because my trailer, I guess, got to some point. I thought I was gone, but I saved it. I was like, woo! And then what they say, you know, it's easy for them to say, well, don't be a victim, you know, just call us, you know, right. First of all, you got to answer the phone, first and foremost. And listen, I'm living in the real world. I'm not living in this stuff that apparently some people that don't drive are in. And there's just nowhere to park, right? Like, nobody wants to be out there driving 18 miles an hour empty unless there's nowhere else to go. Where am I going to go? On the side of the road and just stop? Why? So another truck can hit me? Am I going to go on some on-ramp so the same thing happens? Truck stops are full. The roads were so bad when this happened. If you're familiar with that Albert Lee Petro or TA or whatever it is, like right on the border on I-35, it was so bad. I hate rest areas. I hate rest areas so bad. I hate service plazas. That's how bad I hate rest areas. If there's 2 miles between the rest area and the truck stop, it was so bad that I decided to stop at the rest area because I didn't want to chance the extra 2 miles to get to the truck stop down the road. But they just feel like, oh, well, weather's bad. You could just pull over whenever you want. Or, you know what? You should be able to plan around weather. You know what? How am I supposed to know if the shipper receiver is going to take 4 hours, you know, or 2 hours or 7 or 8 hours? I think they live, it's a fantasy world some of these guys live in. Hey Mike, what kind of business do you do? I always tell people, do you want to go home or be a statistic during the winter? Absolutely. And that might be something that I do. You know what? I might drive the minimum amount I can drive this winter, period. Just use sand in Albert Lee area. Put it down, it just seems like it wouldn't even stick into the road. It was just like Jeremy Griggs. Does Prime still have stupid safety meetings? Worse. Shamark, we were just talking about your video where you were talking about them dispatches where they're dispatching you from one area to another area where another driver's sitting and dispatching that other driver to deadhead to where you're at. I was just talking about that. I don't know if you're here or not. I need to check out your last video you put up. See, Schmark says for paying me because Schmark says 4 trucks at Prime now. I think he has 3 of them paid off or something like that, with another 4th one coming. Man, there is no. That was one thing I could not do. And you know, we were talking a little bit when drivers were doing all kinds of crazy shit, running over guard shacks and putting DEF in the diesel or diesel in the DEF tank. And I mean, he was getting so fucked. I thought they were doing that shit on purpose. And I was like, I can't do it. Yeah, I think I'm about to come back. I think I'm about to come in and check in at Peterbilt. For those of you guys just came in, I walked in there and it was like the sign that they have outside the ghetto store. We'll be back in 30 minutes. Is this the 1st minute or the 29th minute? You know what I'm saying? All right, I see you explaining this thing about the real estate. Does that shift my view on values permanence? Well, it kind of makes me realize the difference between, I know what I'm trying to say. I don't know how I'm trying to say it. Between perishable and non-perishable assets. Yeah, Leah. Leah says, that's like the maintenance guy saying, rehanging the trailer chute is so easy. Please tell me how easy it is to get out here on a step ladder and set it up on a reefer floor that's grooved. You know what? That's another thing. If you came out here with all the fucking equipment they expect you to have, now I gotta have a ladder. I gotta have a blower. I gotta have a shovel. I gotta have a shit to pump up my tires. I gotta, at some point, especially if you're training or teaming, at some point you can't carry enough shit for all the possibilities you might get into. So if it's a trailer situation, I'm just done, like, even worried. If the chute's fucked up, then I'll just have to go get it fixed or whatever. Yeah, they make that shit seem so fucking easy. I mean, it is easy, but am I going to carry a fucking tool for everything that can happen out here? All you got to do is, you know, in the side box of all the reefers, there's spare rivets in here. Yeah. So if anybody happens to be watching this that's been making videos about how bad Prime is, listen, Prime, there's a lot of things Prime could do. But Shamarcus over here just paid off truck number 3. I'd say that's a win right there. But nobody wants to make videos about that. When what's her name News is out here doing all her shit, she has to pick the lowest common denominator or the people that have struggled the most to make videos about them. I mean, when I went into any business, I was never out there trying to I was never out there trying to see what the worst people did or the most unfortunate people in the business did. I didn't get into mortgage banking and say, let me see what the worst loan officers are doing and what their struggle is. No. Yeah, I saw that was what it was about, Ben, but they've been wearing me out with these high value loads. My sleep schedule is all jacked up. Mike is saying their expectations are outside of reality if they never did the task. That's why I'm saying, if anybody ever knows, if anybody's ever seen those American Furniture Warehouse trucks driving down the road, that company's out of Colorado. And back in the day, I was trying anything I could to get out of the car business. Actually, one of the best jobs I had. Anybody that's wanting to get out of trucking and selling furniture for American Furniture Warehouse, man, I was making so much money. I quit that over the dumbest shit. We'll get into that in a second. But the guy that owned that company named Jake Jabs, he made every salesperson. Now at the time he didn't have long haul truckers. He just had the local truck drivers. He had every salesperson go out and ride with them truck drivers just so they'd know how our fuck ups affected them. Like if we didn't measure, have the customer measure, make sure that it would fit and all this kind of stuff, or whatever the situation was, we had to do that. And that gave us a greater appreciation for what they did. That's missing in the trucking. I think Swift did it. I think Swift actually had some higher ups actually go out on the road, and to that I applaud them for that. But I just think that let me just say it for me. I would find it hard for me to be in a fleet manager, or not that the job can't get done, or more importantly, in safety, having never driven a truck. First of all, just because even if you did the job exactly the same, your credibility is not, like, you lose 50% credibility right off the bat. Like, even if you are excellent at the job, you just lose that credibility right there. And if you were actually a truck driver before, not just been on the road with the truck driver, but a truck driver before, now what's the truck driver gonna say? I've been there, I've done that. I've been where you're at. That's what I could tell my kids. You know what? I'm having you do some fucked up shit, but you know what? I've done that shit before. Who do you think did this shit before you were around? You know what I'm saying? So I had credibility as a parent because I've been there. You lack credibility if you haven't done it, even if you do a good job. All right, that's what you have to know how to budget your money, no matter if you're a company or owner-operator. Yeah, everybody was asking why I keep putting $1,100 into my maintenance fund every week, and this bill I'm about to get when I go in here to get these tires done is going to be a reason why I'm glad that I set all that money aside. Not that maintenance fund is there for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're kind of nitpicking about the work, and like if you need to get stuff done on your truck, then they know, okay, he's got it. Another way, if anybody sees that number and they come talking about how much a load pays, they can look at that number and be like, I highly think he doesn't, I highly doubt he's worried about how much the load is paying. So that number is kind of there. It's kind of like a shut the fuck up, like, and then it's there for these bills, because I'm probably going to replace all these tires, even though they don't all need to get done. I just might as well just get them all done. It might be the last set of tires ever on this truck. So, or at least when I'm driving it. Hey, Shamarcus, you went all in on that video though. I almost texted you, and I was like, man, you might want to take that one down, bro. Because you were going in. You definitely went in on that video. Tago, turn this into a mukbang. All right. Well, it wasn't a paradox for me at the time, because when I was selling cars, I was fucking stupid. You know, I wasn't looking looking at stuff the same way that I did, the way that I do now. It took life experience for me to actually understand the value of money. Now I know the people that have the money are the ones that don't look like they have the money. I mean, not the ones you like. That's what. Hold on. One thing that I learned when I was doing mortgages is you get a chance to see who really has the money. And I'm not talking about who makes the most. I'm talking about who has the money. And you would think, oh, the guy that has the money is the one that's living in the, 6,000 square foot house with the, the Mercedes and the BMW in the driveway and, all this shit. More often than not, the one that actually had the most net worth was the person that, it was the person that really didn't make all that much money, but diligently put money in his 401k. Might have been driving around an old Buick LeSabre, maybe 10, 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? And you might go in their house, no frills, nothing like that. And then you ask them for bank statements and all this other kind of stuff, and then boom, you see all this money and these assets, and then the house might be paid off, or I don't know. Dealing with people's money made me realize a lot about money. So if I was a gold digger woman, the last person I'd be fucking with would be somebody that is out there stealing all their money. Because that's definitely some broke ones. I know some broke, like in 2002, 2001, when he was playing for the Broncos. I didn't know it at the time. He lived around the corner from me. I used to always see this car driving by. It was like a old Chevy Malibu with big ass stupid tires and all this shit. I didn't even know that was his house until somebody told me it was. I don't know what he's doing now. I know he's not doing too well. There's another, like, you deal with all these athletes that are like completely broke after making all this money. Like, if I was a gold digger, I'd just look for the average person, the average looking person. All right, make sure you save into high yield account if possible. I'm putting a lot of my stuff in the market. Nothing crazy. I'm too old to get into the crypto shit. Or let me say I'm too old-minded, because I know one of my boys that comes in here, Rusty, he's all about that shit. And to me, to me, it's just like gambling. Like, there's no foundation or nothing to anything. Like, at least if I'm buying a stock, there's at least a foundation to something. There's at least some research. Not, I'm buying this shit because everybody said it, or whatever. It's just like, to me, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I think there's money to be made there, but there's no foundation to it, or I don't know. I'm not trying to get rich quick. The blonde side, what's up? Tammy, I'm out here in Springfield, about to go check my truck into Peterbilt. I want to stay in the truck because I just brought this goddamn truck here like 2 weeks ago, and they were saying we didn't see no air leak, or there was no air leak. So, and when I came to pick up the truck was on 79 as far as the air went. So there's definitely an air leak, and the truck sat long enough for them to. Anyway, I'm gonna be sitting in this truck when they come to pull it in the shop, so we could have a conversation, because talking to these, service advisors ain't doing the trick. And my check engine light's back on. Seeing X-Prime drivers out here working for cents per mile makes me not so upset anymore about sitting so much and earning the same. I wouldn't chase miles ever again unless there's no choice. I think some people are a little delusional. If my man Romaine the trucker comes in here saying he's making more than all these drivers, you might want to drop that all off there, because he sent some paycheck stubs to Trucker B, but we don't want these going back and forth. And I would probably even say with the payment. Yep, I picked up the trash at Fred Warmer's house, and he lives in a normal neighborhood with regular cars, and he got millions. The guy that, and I don't know what he lives in now, the guy that owns American Furniture Warehouse, if you see the trucks, the red ones driving up and down the road, he probably lived in a house. First of all, he drove around a 10-year-old Jeep Cherokee. He drove around a 10-year-old Jeep Cherokee, and his house that he lived in at the time was probably worth about $350,000. So back, if it was worth $350,000 then, it's probably worth $700 now. Nothing spectacular, maybe $750, but nothing outrageous. And he owes everything. He owns the land that the buildings sit on. He owes nothing. Like all the trucks, when he buys the furniture, he buys it cash. If there's a problem with the furniture, he doesn't send it back. He has in-house people fix it so he gets the best. That dude's smart. And he doesn't live crazy. Warren Buffett in Omaha, his house isn't like super crazy or anything like that. I just admire people that do that. Like when I was in the mortgage business, the guy that owns my company, or the only company that I work with, I did a video with him a while back. He's like maybe 6 months older than me. Light years ahead as far as maturity, all that stuff, especially back in those days when he started everything. But he was living so low key. I don't know how many millions of dollars he would have been worth back in the day, but I heard the story about it, the house he bought. So he's living in a regular house, like a regular house. And his wife says, "Hey, I want to buy a house, and all this stuff, And he's like, "Okay, go ahead and find a house." And he didn't tell her how much that she could afford, or how much to look for, something like that. So how can I explain this? He just told her to go out and find something that she wanted. And he probably made the right move, not telling her what they could afford. So she went out and probably bought this house that was like 5,000 square feet, kind of a regular house, maybe a little upscale neighborhood or whatever, but nothing crazy. And she thought that when she went to, that's what the point was. She thought that when she went to him with that house, that he was gonna say, that's too much money, you need to be around here. No, he just went in and bought it. And he was always, you know, he just never, you would never look at that guy and be like, that guy has all that money. I just hate when I see people, especially these young fucking people out here, showing all this money and shit. You know, it's just so fucking stupid. Like, people, like, if you got real money, you can't even hold on to that shit. And you got people out here trying to act like money spread out on a bed or something is a lot of money. I don't get it. The blonde side, I got 4 million shares of bond. All I need to do is get 0.25 and I'm a millionaire. See, I take a flyer on crypto, but I wouldn't like I'm investing selling cars about so much money as I was making, and I was making about so much money as I was making, and I was making some good money. I was an excellent salesperson, but I was probably a little bit average. I never sold the car. I sold the lifestyle. I sold the kids. You know, like if they had kids with them and I was selling them, I was talking to the kids. What do you have kids with them and I was selling them, I was talking to the kids. What do you guys? How you guys doing back there? Yes. How you guys doing back there? You know, and get the kids. Boom. You know, and get the kids. Boom, boom. You know, as much as possible. Sometimes that could get awkward, but it was always going to be towards him. Be towards him. Mortgage industry is a little bit different. It's got to be a little technical, got to be a little bit smoother, and you have to know a little more, and you have to be able to talk a little bit, which is one thing I feel is my vocabulary has gone down since I got into trucking, because I just don't use it as much. So I actually find myself as much. So I actually find myself searching for words sometimes that I would normally use. But mortgages and cars, two totally different things. Cars are more immediate sales. Mortgages, there's a lot more groundwork that needs to be laid. There's a lot more thought that needs to get put in it. You're dealing with a lot. Like, if you sell somebody a bad car, that's a totally different story than like putting somebody in a bad situation that they're gonna have to, they could lose their house over a bad situation. So it's a different situation. I got burnt out in the mortgage business. Probably my last 6 years, I was like burnt out. Like the last 6 years in the mortgage industry, I really didn't even work. I worked as little as possible. I was doing a lot of YouTube shit on my barbecue channel. That was making enough money to, you know, that was making some good money. But being a manager in the mortgage business probably aged me about 5 years. So anyway, I'm going to get off here because this connection, I don't want it to get bad again. I do appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I'm about to walk in here and hopefully they're going to be in there. But I'll check you guys out later.